Welcome to the What's Already podcast. We fashion ourselves television judge and jury. My name is JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-hosts Matt Senheiner.
Better read than dead.
And Alec Burgess.
Let's get it.
We appreciate you tuning in. Go ahead and hit that follow, like, subscribe, bell notification, all those fun things that you should be doing if you listen to us, like listening to us. We appreciate it. If you're new, welcome. Today we're going to be reviewing Stranger Things Season 4, Volume 2. Yeah, it was long.
My goodness.
What
was
like
total runtime, JJ? It was close to
4 hours,
right?
It was an hour and 32 minutes and then 2 hours and 22 minutes, I think.
Jeez. So my first question is, why? Because they can set up however they want. Why not just make it into 4 or 5 episodes and they just went into the basically like a 2-movie thing? I was just curious, why make that decision?
I have no idea. And I was wondering the same thing. I was even wondering that during the first half of the season. And it's like we had almost
lengthy 7 episodes, most of them.
Yeah, I think we had like 9 hours, almost 9 or 10 hours of content in the first 7. So I'm like, there's a full season right there. And I feel like the first half could have been a full season by itself. You know what I mean? Like I see no reason. And I don't know, it's a double-edged sword because I won't say that I didn't enjoy the last 2 episodes. I just feel like it was an odd choice to have 14 hours of content in a season. I don't feel like it was necessary. I don't understand why the decision was made to do that. I don't know if it was a Netflix thing, if it was a Duffer Brother thing. I don't know. I'd be interested to know why they decided to do it that way. But I feel like it was unnecessary. And I feel like, to be honest, it took away from both halves of the season for me because it was just a lot. Like, I mean, we even talked about it in the first half on the podcast. If you haven't listened to it, you should go listen to it. There's my shameless plug for the night or for the day. But I just feel like it suffered because of the length. Like, I'm all about more and more and more, but I also feel like I have a hard time sometimes getting through a movie that's 2 hours and 22 minutes long. And I know it's a movie and it's designed to be a movie. And while this show in a lot of ways can be converted to that, I wasn't prepared for a 2 hour and 22 minute final episode. Yeah, because it's a TV format and I think it suffered, but maybe that's just me. What do you guys think?
Go for it, Alec.
I could have comfortably cut out about 35 minutes from that last episode because the amount of times it faded to black. I was like, is it done? No. Okay. Is it done? No. Okay. And it just kept going and going and going and going and going. I was like, are you kidding me? Because I felt like a lot of it was needless filler and, setting us up for the final season that's coming. Which I feel like you could do in a trailer and give me 35 minutes of my life back. Yeah. But yeah, it was long. Too long.
Like the build up through the Vecna part in Ellen Vecna fighting, like I quite liked all that, but it was those after scenes, as Alex kind of alluding to, that I think sometimes where you have too much creative power in the Duffy brothers and maybe people can't just tell them no at some point, where less can be more. I would just think after that fact, it just dragged on a little too long because I knew they already had a season 5. So because of that, I think that's what contributed to a lot of this. Oh, we can bridge the gap into this next one. But that's what warned me. And because there's a lot of these last 2, I dare call them episodes, last 2 movies, I feel like I should say, that were pretty compelling to me in a lot of ways. But I think how we got to the finish line, I felt like we were like Dustin limping along by the end there. And it's like, yeah, maybe we could have done it a different way. Because it was just, so for our listeners, obviously this came out, today is Saturday, the 2nd. And this came out yesterday on Friday. And so you can imagine we had to cram this all in a very condensed period of time because we have jobs and lives, and to do this and then come record Saturday morning. It was a endeavor. We do it for our fans, but definitely it was a little grueling, and I still just don't understand why they could have released. They could have taken like 2 episodes from the first half and packaged this as its own separate season that they could have released later this year and had another whole marketing buildup and things like that, and it would have probably been fine. Yeah, it would have been interesting to be in that room on why they made the decisions they did.
Yeah, it feels to me, to be honest with you, kind of like the decision that was made for HBO and the final seasons of Game of Thrones. Like it feels like the Duffer Brothers might be ready to move on, and maybe not, because they've announced that they're working on some spin-offs for once
Oh,
the actual
really?
core show. Yeah, so I don't know, maybe not, or maybe that's the thing, is they're just ready to tell a different story, and so they've tried to cram as much as they can into getting it done in 2 seasons instead of what could have been 4. Because to be honest with you, if I'm a showrunner and I want a guaranteed job, Netflix is never going to tell you no for this show because it continues to get the ratings. I think for me, I would have taken, because we had the 4 major sections of this movie with Hopper and the Russia piece. You got the California piece. You got the Hawkins piece. Yeah, I guess you got 2 separate pieces of Hawkins are in that area, but you could have made 3 seasons to get us to season 5, right? So you can have the California piece and then have the Hawkins piece and have the Russia piece, and all of that has its own 8-episode season, and then you bring it all together in a final 5th season. And you could have, like, we had enough content for that, and who the hell knows how much they left on the cutting room floor, you know what I mean? So I feel like it was one of those things where, like, we have all this story we need to tell and bring everybody back together from where we separated from season 3, and it's going to take us forever, so let's just hurry up and make a bunch of long episodes instead. To me, I'm like, why not stretch it into, because I'd watch it. I mean, I might bitch and moan about a little of it, going, man, this is kind of light on content, but I think you could have fleshed out some of the stories a little bit more, because that was my other problem, is for as long as it is, there are certain pieces of it that felt super disconnected and rushed, like especially the Russia side of it.
Yeah, like Russia. I wanted to ask right now, JJ, because I was a little tired watching. That was where I was really going through some difficulty pushing through last night. Is why did they go back into the prison to? Did they make a decision to help Elle? But how did they exactly know what was happening at the same time because they were in Russia? I was just confused about going back in and fighting the demigorgons and demidogs or whatever.
Well, because they had assumed that they were, because they're not stupid. They know these kids are going back in. They were given the word from the doctors, lady, his government agency person, that she said that they're all going back in. They're going to fight Vecna
Oh,
or
because they
whatever.
talked on the phone.
Yeah, that red phone. Don't die.
That's right. Okay, that's the part I forgot. So it makes more sense because they wanted to. They felt like it was a hive mentality, and hurting those would hurt the upside
Yeah, it would
down.
weaken the overall. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it didn't. That didn't. I don't know. It was kind of a meh.
Yeah, but I thought, I was thinking back on it as I was watching the last episode last night, and I guess early this morning, and realized that the whole Russia thing, as much as I love Hopper, he's probably my second or third favorite character. Like, he's one of my favorite characters in
He
the
was my
show.
favorite.
And I feel like Russia was so forced to make sure Hopper was in it. I don't think the whole Russia storyline wasn't necessary at all. In fact, I would have preferred them letting us think Hopper was dead for this entire season and not have him in it. And then in the beginning of the 5th season, he shows up.
Yeah, they could have had
you know
then
what I mean?
one or 2 episodes solely on that journey to get back and taken all that crap and condensed it. Because if you look at probably total runtime for Russia, probably I could have turned into like 2 episodes, and that would have been boss. Because he comes through the door with Elle, and they're sitting down, and then you roll into next season, and boom, go back to that and you're like, so this is what Hopper went through. Would have been awesome.
Yeah, would have been amazing. But as it stands, like I could have done of all the things that I had to watch for 10 hours, I was like, I cut Russia out because it didn't add anything to me other than it had Hopper. Like that was it. And it had Enzo, the cool new character. He was cool. I mean, I enjoyed the dude from Game of Thrones being in there. And
what's the karate guy? I always forget his name with the glasses.
Murray.
Murray.
I quite liked Murray, I'll say, but it was just it just didn't fit. Like I got the California storyline. They made it work enough where that made sense to me, and even that at times kind of pulled me out. But that one, it made sense in the plot, and I got it. And I was like, all right, like. But the Russia one really pulled me out. Just really, I think if I was saying the worst part of the season for me was that, and it hurts because Hopper's my favorite. But
Yeah.
honestly, when this all ended at Hopper, I was like, I think he's kind of lower in my mind right now. But now that he's back, I think he's going to be because he just wasn't the Hopper that we knew in Stranger Things. He was just kind of a shell of himself in Russia, and I just didn't enjoy that.
Yeah.
The biggest shock of this entire episode was that the peanut butter smuggler was a decorated war hero for the Soviet Union.
Yeah. Yep.
That I was gone after that. I was like, my man Yuri, right there.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it was interesting because that's one of the things that this show has always done very well is it takes a character that you can't help but not like, because like Murray in the third season or second or third season, like you didn't like this dude. He was annoying. He was kind of a dick. And Yuri was the same way, but there's a little piece of him that he was just funny enough that you were entertained. And so like that redemption piece and that being added in, same with Steve. And so there's so many characters that start off as annoying and you're not supposed to like them, but you just kind of do. So like Yuri for me, it was like, oh, they did that really good, but it was so wrapped up in a storyline that I was like, oh my God, I just don't need this. But I'll say this, the other piece that I got irritated by as I was watching last night and into this morning was this whole Steve and Nancy thing. Like, just fucking pull the trigger on it. Like, nobody, okay, maybe some people. I was never a fan of Jonathan and Nancy anyway. So I don't need that shit. And so watching them have their interaction was fine. But then this whole ending where Jonathan's back and it's all awkward and weird, just break up with this fucking dude. Quit dicking around and just get it done. And because I was like, we didn't need it anyway. She could have just been on her own. Why does she always got to be with someone? I was just annoyed by that whole thing throughout the entire season, not just these last two, but by these last two, it was really grating on me. Their interactions and like her and Steve, will they, won't they? And I'm just like, oh my God, whatever. Let's just move on. And that's probably 2 hours of content throughout the whole season that he could have gone without. You know what I mean? So I think there were some odd choices that they pushed themselves into.
You know who grew on me throughout the season? Argyle. Quite like that guy. Alec, every time he was on screen, I just got listeners out there, for those of you that don't know what Alec looks like, Argyle and Alec are like, they could be the same person. Alec has
my dude.
And if Alec was a stoner, I feel like that would be a personality you would take on. And I would be completely okay with that. Great guy.
Let me tell you, bro, chachos, the fact that Argyle puts pineapple on his pizza, do not deny it until you try it, my dudes.
Dude.
My dudes.
Both 11 and Mike went down a notch for me. At least 11, because Mike didn't actually say it was delicious, but 11 starts freaking out over them.
And I got to address just poor Mike. If we're talking about, it made me think of Neville Longbottom in Harry Potter. I hope there's a redemption arc there somewhere in the way that this kid into man looks, because, man, right now, puberty has just not been kind to him. If we're talking about child stars that have aged into cinema, his transition has been anything but good.
He needs a fucking haircut. It worked when he was a child, like a little kid.
It
stopped working after Ghostbusters. He needs a fucking haircut. If he were to cut his hair, get a nice, I mean, it doesn't even have to go like super short.
It would
but
help him exponentially because right now every time I see him, I chuckle on the inside, just like, oh, like at least Will, who looks stupid in his bowl cut, like you just know it's for the movie, it's the '80s thing, and it is what it is. People were down back then, but like, man, Will just, oof. Maybe for season 5 he'll come to his senses.
Yeah, I think it's the actor that needs to do it. I think that's his. But he looks like a young Howard Stern. That's my problem.
Yeah.
Just wait, he still wears that hair outside of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
That's on him then. That's bad.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
That someone needs to tell him you will stay a virgin until you get that haircut.
That's probably false, but he.
Unfortunately, that's false because.
Yeah.
Yes, it goes without saying, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't know how you have a cool ass name like Finn Wolfhard and then you wear your hair like that.
Well, he needs to go on one of those carnivore diets and bulk up a little bit. He looks
that,
like
too.
He weighs 30 pounds soaking
wet.
He's
a Nobby's son.
That's true. He's a lanky son of a gun.
Do you think they also paid 11? I don't know her. It's Millie. She has a coolie. Millie What's her?
Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah, she's a cool stage name if that's not her real name. But I hope they paid her a little bit more because she had to freaking recut her hair again.
No, that was a wig cap.
I was a wig. I did a good job then because
she couldn't this time because she was filming Enola Holmes 2 and a couple other things while she was doing it.
Well, that was a good wig cap then because I couldn't tell.
Yeah. I thought they really cut her hair again until I saw a post somewhere that they showed her. It was side by side with poor Jamie Campbell Bower, who had to go through 7 hours of the makeup chair because all of that Vecna stuff was actually makeup and prosthetics. So,
well, he was probably wearing that when he was that scene with Max in Elle in the house when they had a lot of close-ups. That looked very like practical effects and. Man, that sure looked good, and they still had some CGI in parts where it was like coming on, and you could tell they shelled out a fair penny there, but it did work there. I was like, looks really good. I mean, there was 2 really good CGI scenes when Hopper cut the head off of the Demogorgon. That was awesome, and then there was another. It was that Vecna scene right there too. They had like 2 back to back, and both of those. I was like, I told Taylor like that's a lot of money on screen right there, but it worked because. The CGI when he transitioned into the Upside Down, that's where I was just like, because it would look so good there. How did they let that other one look so bad?
I just think we're still not to the point where, unless it's geared towards looking a little bit animated, we haven't figured out how to make humans look human, like fully human. So when you do that full body facial,
it never looks.
No, it's always going to have that computer look to it.
What was that movie we just saw with not Venom but the other Morbius? You go back to that, you're just like, oh, like we are not there yet. Like
yeah, we're just not. Unless it's either gonna look video gamey, or you have to make your whole show like an animated style so that it fits. Other than that, like they just haven't figured it out. So, but yeah, that stuff. Once he's in Vecna, the CGI does look pretty good, especially because it's built on practical effects, which is always better in my opinion. Unless, as Alec pointed out in TikTok, it's hurting animals, then I'm not okay with that. Okay, so I've poo-pooed on the show a lot. I want to talk about these fucking kids, man. The acting in this show from the kids especially, like Millie Bobby Brown, since you brought her up, and Gatton Montezano, oh my God. Those two and their emotions and like, man, they're hella good. Hella good. And 11, we've known that the whole time. Like Millie Bobby Brown, no questions asked. Like she's always been able to pull emotions out. Like season 3, when like her and Billy were going at it and she had like that, like on the show, like that was like real for the actress. Like they show, like you can watch behind the scenes, like where she almost has like a breakdown and Finn Wolfhard's like hugging her and it got into the scene, but it was because like she was literally struggling because that's how into it she gets. So we knew that, but man, the whole Eddie scene with Gaten Matazano and he's losing it, and then even worse with the dude's uncle. Like I was like, damn kid, you're good, because that was like real emotion. So I'm impressed. We need to protect these kids. I don't want a bunch of friggin' whacked out former child actors when they grow up and become full-fledged adults. I worry about that with every great kid actor, because so many of them in the past have had issues, and
But
so
why
I
did they
hope
turn
that doesn't
to
happen.
the drugs? Because it happens so often that there is some sort of pitfall that can come up. Just that.
I just think it's because people, look, peer pressure I mean, it's terrible to call it that, but when you have access to anything you want, people will give it to you. And that stuff's dangerous. So I really hope they don't. I hope they have a good support system. And the good thing is they've got some veteran actors around them in this show that I think they seem like they have good relationships with outside of work. And so hopefully they'll keep them out. And all of the actors that are around them that are veteran, like Winona Ryder, she had her own issues from being a child actress, and David Harbour had some career issues. So hopefully they're helping to steer them in the right direction, but they're just so good. The only one that
were struggling.
the only one I struggled with emotion from the emotional side was Noah Schnapp, who plays Will. Like I had a hard time with some of his emotional stuff, but I like the kid. Like,
I'm assuming
is his character supposed to be homosexual?
I think so.
Yeah,
It's the only thing that makes sense to me. That's another one that I was like, and I get like
he has a crush on Will or
Mike.
I mean.
Yeah.
Because from that standpoint, if like that's the way they're going, I get all of.
You get all of what?
All of his emotional kind of takes perfectly.
Sure. No, and believe me, I get the way that they're playing it, and I just think like he's not quite as believable as those other two that we talked
comes
about.
Off as slightly more robotic to me.
Yeah, it's more, you can tell he's acting, which I get it. The kids, I mean, I think they're barely 18, 19 years old. So it's impressive that they still pull that off. And yeah, to be honest with you, it's been interesting to watch the parallel of Robin versus Will, because as far as we know, they're both dealing with the same issue, right? But one she's got Steve, who's wildly supportive and helping her get through that, and she's still got those struggles. And in the 80s, that shit was real, man. Late 70s, early 80s, there's no question that was not an easy time. Not that it is now, but it's far more socially accepted now than it was. Believe me, when I grew up, it was quite common for those slang and slurs to get thrown around without even recognizing how hurtful, and that there was probably someone of that community, the LGBTQ community, around you without knowing it, because you were a pariah in that case. And that's sad to say, but growing up, it was the truth. And then the juxtaposition with Will, who nobody knows, and the only support he's got is big brother Jonathan, who still doesn't, I think, figured it out, but hasn't fully, it's never come out. So it's an interesting to see both sides of that in that way, but I like the way they portray that.
He's got to go to Argyle. That'll be the greatest support structure ever.
Yeah, no kidding. My dude.
My dudes.
Dude, and I loved like the dollar store version of Argyle at the Nevada freaking pizza joint. The little bit curly hair, and they give him have you ever had purple whatever?
Purple Delight or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it was.
Alec, do you ever just go out into the forest and look for shrooms? And
all the time. Except here, it's I go out into the desert and look for sage. But same principle.
Yeah, that's funny.
Argyle is pretty awesome. What do we think about? I mean, a huge part of these episodes was the kind of conclusion of Papa, that whole kind of circling back in that journey. Um, what did everyone think there? My thoughts personally, like I'm glad he's dead. It was just that whole scene was so interesting. It was big. It was military on military, like U.S. on U.S. just killing and like outright, like just no one left alive. When they got out of the bunker and you see all the lab coats and everything, like, oh man, like they're not leaving a soul alive. And this is American on American killing. It's like I like I guess that can happen, but that was some extreme stuff. And then Papa, I think it was kind of true to form that he didn't want to let 11 go, even though he said he was going to, and wasn't necessarily surprised that 11 wasn't strong enough to break away. Um, at times, I felt like it was a little slow and exhaustive, but I think it was. They wanted to paint a picture that she had finally faced her demons and grown up and realized she wasn't the monster. It was someone else, and I get the delivery behind that, but I think it could have been done in a much quicker fashion.
Yeah.
The
Go
thing
ahead.
about the secret base kind of angle is that that's a really easy cover up. So you don't have to worry about anybody
Sure.
poking their nose where they don't. And plus, you have this kind of, I don't know if he's a colonel or what he is, but he is on the warpath. He's not going to let a few MPs and a couple guys in lab coats get in his way. But I think it took too long for her to finally turn against Papa, because you have the fact that he's essentially abused her in her entire life. And we see her kind of recognize the abuse several times in earlier seasons. And then we just got her memories back where she's been talking to one and she understands that, oh, Henry is kind of going through the same things, I did. Talks about how Papa lies and all these things. And then she still just, it takes him getting shot 3 times for her to kind of make peace with her demons. And so I don't know how they were trying to portray that, if they were going for, like to show how much power this man still had over her. But I was like, dude, you've had so many opportunities and so many chances
My
to
dude.
end this guy's life. Um, so I was like, dude, just get on with it. He doesn't need to be here anymore.
Yeah, I would agree. I think my problem with it was they went in so many weird directions. Like we're sitting there in the argument between the two of them where she's literally calling him out saying, "You sent me into the darkness to find Henry." And he kind of denies it, but I think the implication is that she was right, that's what the
Mm-hmm.
goal was, not necessarily the Russians, but to find Henry, at least in part, right? But then we don't get that payoff other than him laying on the ground and saying everything I did for you, and she basically saying, "Yeah, I'm not going to say that I understand that because it's bullshit." But it took a long time, like you said, to get there. And I think his story, while kind of necessary, I guess, to get her powers back, I still feel like that was another piece that I didn't necessarily need. I think I would have enjoyed it more with Owens being in charge and maybe even including the colonel. That whatever, yeah, the goal was now these two are fighting. Owens is trying to help her get back to what's going on and help her remember, and the general's like, or the colonel or whoever's like, no, she's done. And then they turn on each other in the middle of the thing. I think you could have done it without bringing him back. I thought it was lazy that they brought him back when they brought him back. So I that's kind of my thought process. But yeah, I could have done without. It just didn't. It was another piece that I just didn't buy into very well. So
Are they ever gonna, I don't know, make 11's fight scenes more interesting? Because, like, I understand earlier seasons using the hand and everything, and that's how they illustrate what's happening. But her only move is to scream and throw her hand out there. And
yeah,
Millie Bobby Brown has grown a lot in her acting capabilities. and very clearly the badass of the group.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to see her like reload her biceps like Henry Cavill does in Mission Impossible, or
Yeah.
have some other kind of, you know, I don't know, thing that she does to make these fight scenes more interesting, because I mean, you're wasting great talent by just having her sit there and scream.
Yeah. I'm with you there. I can see that. They do need to find some variety within that whole thing. I will say that I really enjoyed the whole plan. If you take out the whole 11 piece and like the planning that went into going, like their whole plan and going to get the guns, and like that was another piece that I felt like throughout the season. I'll just get this out and then I'll go back to the plan. The whole high school jock kids, like that was forced added tension that I just don't know again was necessary. I get why they did it. And there were parts in the first 7 episodes that I really, like we talked about it, I really laughed at this kid and his freaking,
His speeches.
being able to pep up a whole town through his speeches as a kid. But by the end of it, like his and Lucas's fight and then them going after the little sister, like I just was like, okay, I get why it had to happen, but it just felt like a throwaway piece when everything else that was going on was so interesting to me, you know? The whole Robin and Nancy and Steve like sneaking through the house. I liked the Max and Lucas like writing in a notebook thing. That was really cool and cute and emotional. And then, but like I said, there were just parts of it that it was just everything that was so good had like a mirror image that I was like, this just isn't necessary. So it was definitely like over bloated because they're like, we can do whatever, Netflix is going to let us do what the hell we want. But
did Eddie's death feel, I don't know, like when he turned back and was like the distraction at that point, I turned to him, I was like, there's no point of doing this though. This is literally just a suicide job because they've already distracted them enough. I don't know. At that, I get why they wanted to have him not run away and face and stand up to something and be a hero, but that's when I was like, well, he could have just stayed and maybe not died. But people have to die.
I know why. They didn't know how to write his redemption arc with the town. They could see no way to clear his name, so they killed him.
Well, and I laughed because I was thinking to myself as I was climbing into bed at the end of after I was done watching it, going, it does not pay to not be a core member of the cast in this show, because there's a lot of people that have died.
Poor Barb.
Yeah, I mean Barb, and then the poor boyfriend in season 2 that I really enjoyed because, it's just like, it doesn't pay. Because I knew that Eddie was toast, and especially after such a great rendition of freaking Master of Puppets, like him just jamming out on the top of that thing. I was like,
Metallica
I want more of that.
Metallica had to be happy because I'm sure they had to get permission for that. But once they were that song, this scene, go for it.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's really good.
And I really loved how he goes with Gatton or Gaten.
Yeah. I don't know.
We're not heroes.
Yeah.
Their look back and forth. He's got his dog tags on.
Yep.
It's so great.
Love it. Yeah, those two were fun. And for me, that character, like, and I've already sung his praise, but Gatton Matarazzo, I love that kid. Dustin's like he's probably my favorite character in the show. Always has been. Like, I've always enjoyed that dude. But yeah, like it's interesting. Hey, was it on the episode the last episode that we did, Alec, or was it just you and I talking that because I got pretty proud of myself when we saw Vecna creating the
Mind Flayer
as a spider.
That was the last episode.
Yeah, I didn't remember if we talked about it during the episode or if it was just you and I talking, because I had that thought going, oh, he had an obsession with spiders and that thing looks like a big old spider. So we got the answer that he created the mind flayer using whatever that dust is, or yeah. So still a little to learn about the Upside Down, but we certainly know who's in control out there. So we got that answered.
Well, it's like we did talk about, though. We did say Vecna was going to be our concluding villain through season 4 and 5, which I could tell was going that way, and I think we were right. And I'm okay with that. I personally think that if it wasn't him, it was someone else, I think it would have been exhausting and like, man, when does this really end? So, because I like that we know a lot about Vecna, the backstory. I think Henry and number 1 or whatever we're calling it, like, I quite like the backstory. It's compelling. I feel this is a villain that's formidable, and the rage and desire to destroy Hawkins makes sense to me. Like, it's coming together in that regard, where all the equity that we put into the season, understanding why Hawkins is kind of in the thick of it, it does work for me. Like, I have found myself being like, all right, like, I like how we're gonna probably come to a pretty insane conclusion. Just poor Hawkins, like, poor Hawkins. Wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, that was a hell of a final scene, like final shot though, with everybody standing on that like hillside thing, looking down on the city that looks like a volcano coming out of it. And yeah, that was pretty ominous looking. So they definitely have their work cut out for them in season 5.
The president got a call and he's like, wait, what? And he's like, where is it? Hawkins? Where's that? Indiana? He's like, oh, thank goodness, we're fine.
State's tiny anyway, leave it alone. No. Yeah, should be interesting. I am looking forward to season 5. I hope I hope it's not bloated like this. I hope they can figure out how to tell that story in a normal television.
I'm hoping, because everyone is also in the same location, and we can get back to more. Because now having Core Hopper back, like, he's my favorite character. I missed him just being Hopper, and it will always be different. A skinny Hopper, as we call it. But I'm excited to have him back, and kind of the whole gang together in that regard. And I'm hoping maybe they can turn it more into like Stranger Things 1, and have that vibe and kind of close it out. Because if they're going to do another season of 3 or 4 different plot lines in multiple locations, I think they're going to definitely lose me, because they push me to my brink a little bit.
Yeah. While I've poo-pooed on it, I get why they did what they did, because everything was so separated. And I think they ended season 3 not knowing if they were going to do a season 4 or 5. And so once it was renewed, they had to bring everybody back together. So I do get it. I think they overbloated it even more than it needed to be, but I hope season 5 is smaller. What about you, Alec? Final thoughts?
Is this whole show just one big D&D campaign, JJ?
Pretty much.
Because where did Hopper's sword come from when he fights a Demogorgon?
That was those shitty weapons that they gave him at the end of this first season.
That didn't look shitty. That looked awesome. It looked like he rolled a natural 20 on his perception roll as the dumb barbarian, and the DM was like, okay, fuck it. Here we go.
Oh, I love it when you give me my intros, Alec. No, you're not wrong, but it was like, so when they were in the first part of the season, when they were getting ready to fight the Demogorgons in the last episode, I think they opened up like a cabinet and I say shitty weapons not because it was a terrible like made weapon, because it did look like I was like, he's gonna raise his hands and be like, by the power of Grayskull. Like, that's what I saw. So it was like but they opened up that cover and it was all like melee weapons. There weren't like guns or anything. So that was left on the ground from that initial fight, if you can call it that he lit his spear on fire. So that's what I came. But yeah, that was quite an ornate sword. Like I said, I was waiting for him to be like, by the power of Grayskull, and turn into He-Man freaking Hopper. It was gonna be great.
There's definitely gonna be some cosplay with that sword, or someone's gonna make that and sell it and make some good money out of that, because it looked pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that will be a replica made.
But other than that, I really liked it. I did have another coward moment. My arrow garden went off again. Oshi insists on watching these episodes with the lights off.
Sure,
don't understand why.
Scary episodes.
They are scary episodes.
No.
So what
What are you
happened?
even jumping at? Like Vecna, that's the one thing we've seen him so much that Vecna's not scary, just a compelling villain.
Well,
at this point.
okay.
Like, what are you...
So let me paint the picture, Matt.
Yeah,
right?
paint the picture.
They've kicked Vecna out of the second story, right? He falls to the ground, he's burning. They come out the front door, he's gone, right? So we know he's not dead. Then the
course we knew
clock
he was
starts
gonna be
chiming,
gone.
right? Ding, ding, right? At the fourth chime, the light flips off. After the fourth chime comes, there's that little pause. The light clicks off, and I went straight to the ceiling.
My gosh.
I would love watching shit like this with you, dude. I'm serious.
It's bad.
That's funny.
My goodness.
Oh, I almost forgot. Okay, if they don't bring Max back, fuck this show, because freaking Sadie Sink is a treasure, dude. She kills it every time she's on screen, and when she has like these emotional moments where she's going through things, and and Max was one of those characters, like when they brought her in season 2 or no, season 3 she started, huh? So just last season, like I was like, oh, a new character, well, whatever. But no, this girl just kills it. And I was so mad. And yet I was torn because I was like, wow, they had the balls to actually kill off a character that is wildly beloved in this show. So I was impressed. So I'm interested to see what'll happen with Max. I think of all the things that had me emotionally like
they did a really good
invested
job
was Max. And that was another moment when she was like dying and Lucas is losing it. And again, Millie Bobby Brown was in the water part, like in the mine place, and she's losing it, and then Sadie's like, or the Max is like, I don't want to die. Man, that was crushing for me. Like I was so mad, and yet I was like, wow, that's impressive. But I was mad, big mad, because I was saying the whole time, if they kill Max, I'm gonna be pissed. So I'm a little salty because it seems like she's at least not able to. She's not conscious in some way because 11 can't get to her, but yeah, and blind, and every limb was broken, and I'm like, damn. So I'm hoping they bring her back and not evilly, because that would suck if she's like the new Vecna vessel or something. That would suck. Anyway, I didn't want to leave that out because Sadie Sink is amazing, and we didn't talk about Max at all. So.
And she's a redhead, so okay.
Yeah, there you go. She's awesome. I hope that she gets a lot more jobs because she's fantastic.
Better red than dead.
Love it.
Little known fact out there that when redheads die, their heart can go up for a minute, but we can come back one time, just once.
Just once. They get a res, just one res.
That's actually our soul that was taken from us coming back for the first time.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Yeah. Sadie Sink is she's a fantastic little actress, so they better bring her back. I want her in the X-Men as Jean Grey so bad I can taste it. Like she would be amazing because she's cool and she's feisty. Anyway. Yeah, there it is. Anything else we want to add?
Excited for them to wrap a bow. I do appreciate the buildup of Vecna. I think it's a compelling villain to close out a very popular series, and I hope they, like I said, the gang's back more in a centralized location, gonna have more of like a Stranger Things 1 feel and vibe. I'm hopeful. Season 5 was good. It was a little drawn out and lengthy, but I mean, all things considered, we've been pretty critical. At the same time, it was extremely emotional. I thought the overall plot was pretty darn compelling, especially for season 4, and I will watch season 5. I'm looking forward to seeing the conclusion. So all things considered, I was happy. I just wish they would have broken it up a little bit more. But beyond that, though, like pretty well written across the board.
Yeah, I poo-pooed it a lot, but overall I enjoyed it. It was just a lot, all at once. All right, well there it is. Mattson, tell everybody where they can find us outside of here.
Yeah. Go check us out on TikTok first and foremost. I think Instagram, we're going to be starting some reels as well. Alec is trickling like Vecna across platforms, worlds, social media. Alex, our Vecna of the media there. So, in fact, maybe there's some like, you might want to play around with that one, Alec. But TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, but predominantly TikTok and Insta. And then just hit that follow, like, or subscribe button. We've got weird content with a tiger that we think is alive, movie trivia, random videos, pizza and ice cream together. I mean, come check it out. And then also we've got a ton of things coming up with TV, with Miss Marvel ongoing. We're going to do Terminal List, concluding with The Boys. We've got Thor, Love and Thunder, Bullet Train. We just did our content calendar this week. Very busy for the upcoming months. Excited, and going to be throwing in some new flavors of the month in August, with trying out some, just talking about some general topics we're going to do that have nothing to do with movies or TV, and just kind of inserting something new into your all's life as well, and see how that goes.
Definitely. Alex Vecna. That's funny.
I am left-handed, so check. Pizza and ice cream is pretty much Argyle approved at this point, so check.
Yeah. Yikes. We are a weird bunch of people.
What's up, nachos?
I love it. All right. Well, there it is. We appreciate you tuning in for Stranger Things Review, Season 4, the last part 2. Yeah, we'll catch you on the next one.
Wait.
Cinemagic out.
Whoa!